Okay, so it's really lovely to be here with you all again after 2 weeks after we took our week off. Um, so last time, I think many of you or most of you were on the session last time 2 weeks ago. We did a couple of poems by John Keats. Um, the the poor, tragic, doomed, brilliant John Keats, who wrote more great poems before he died at the age of 25 than a whole lot of people can write in, much longer lifetimes. I wanted to look at one more poem, one of his odes. He had about a year in which he started writing odes, and he wrote four or five of them that are really considered to be among the greatest odes written in English. So an ode, I have to give you all permission to unmute yourselves as needed. Um, so a lot of the writing, a lot of the poems, at his time, people were still from Shakespeare's day and before really, people, the sonnet was kind of that was the thing to write. And you remember that the first poem we looked at last time on first looking into Chapman's Homer, that was a sonnet. And it has a very particular form, 14 lines. It's written on iambic pentameter. It's got the octave, which is the first 8 lines, and then there's a turn, a volta, and then the last 6 lines is sestet. The first 8 lines kind of pose a problem, a situation, make some kind of statement, and then the final 6 lines kind of answer it. And it's a very classical form. There's something about it that you can get a lot of mileage out of it. But like any classical form, it can also be um, kind of constrictive. So Keats, and in particular, Keats is identified with the Romantic movement of the early 19th century, including poets like Shelley, Lord Byron, in America, Wordsworth, and Coleridge. And yeah, Scott, you had wanted to
I'm
say something?
wondering if do you have the kind of mic you can bring closer? You're about 2/3 of your normal volume. I've got you full blast.
Um, okay, yeah, I did a sound check with other people. They said I was okay. Is this better? One, two, one. Whoop. Hold on. Okay, let me get real cozy with this microphone, and then if I'm too loud for other people, you can turn me down. Scott, is that better?
Yeah, that's much better.
One, two,
Thank
one,
you.
two. Okay, good.
Thank you.
Thank you. Um, so where were we? We were in the early 19th century, the Romantic era. So we've got William. Did I say Wordsworth in America? That's not right. No, we had in England. Mostly this was going on in England. We had Wordsworth and Coleridge and Lord Byron, Shelley, and the kind of main theme of the romantic, what's sometimes called the Romantic Revolution, was, it was like a youth movement. It was like at a time when the politically there was a lot of throwing off of the old political systems and a lot of questioning and overthrowing the old kind of constrictive religious dogmas and social dogmas. So you needed a poetry to go along with it. So for Keats, that partly took the form of writing odes rather than just sonnets. Um, and the ode is a much looser form. It can be looser, more expressive. It can go on for as long as you need it to go on. You're not restricted to 14 lines. And generally an ode, it's written to or on something. Okay, so ode to a nightingale, something like that. There's one object or thing or person that becomes the focus, and then whatever needs to be expressed about life or feeling or existing, it all happens within that whatever you're writing the ode to, that becomes the springboard for whatever you have to express. So, um, one other, just one more piece of historical background, we can dive into the poem. Um, there was an English lord, an adventurer, Lord Elgin, who uh, got very interested in the Greek antiquities. The In particular the Parthenon. The Brits were doing a lot of making their presence known all over the Mediterranean part of the world, and they saw, oh, here's all these cool marble sculptures and friezes and things from the Parthenon and some of the other ancient uh, Greek ruins. They said, gee, these look great. Let's bring them home. And so they made some very shady deals with whoever was at the time. The Greece was being ruled by, I think, the Ottoman Empire. So they made some shady deals with the Ottoman ruler, and Lord Elgin arranged to have. He started off in the guise of, oh, I'm going to study these to help preserve them, and then it was like, well, we're here, we're going to take these home, and they brought them back to the British Museum in London. And by the way, 200 years later, Greece is still trying to get back what are unjustly called the Elgin marbles. Um, so it's a big cultural crime. But on the other hand, it enabled Keats to go to the British Museum and see all these marbles and get inspired. And he wrote one ode, the ode on the Elgin marbles. But that's not the one we're going to talk about today. He also wrote one called Ode on a Grecian Urn. So this was partly inspired by viewing the Elgin marbles, and also he found some engravings, two-dimensional representations of Grecian urns. The big. Usually they're 3-4 feet high, with all kinds of painting on the side. And we have. Let me see if I can pull this up for you. Um, we know that he. Um, hang on, hang on. Here I am. Um, we know that he got hold of some of these engravings. Are you all seeing this urn now? His picture of an urn?
Beautiful.
Yes. And you see at the bottom it says by John Keats. So this is so what he did was he actually they had these engravings. They were two-dimensional representations of the urns, but they were engraved, so they were like, it's like braille kind of.
Oh,
And so he was able to take a piece of paper and trace the engraving. So he made tracings of a couple of these engravings, and we're looking at one of them right here from his hand, which is pretty cool.
fantastic.
Yeah, isn't it? Isn't it? Yeah. So you notice, we've got these figures. We've got looks like some women, someone with a spear, looks like a couple of naked figures just disappearing around the edges. Those are going to be important. Um, and we've got, floral things, leaves and twigs, and we've got a couple of, looks like goose heads here, kind of bringing it all together. So his ode on a Grecian urn is based on observing several actual urns or engravings of them, plus elements of his own imagination. So the urn that he describes in the poem doesn't particularly there's no one urn that actually um, um, follows this whole description. It's a composite. That's the word. It's a composite. So is everyone seeing the you seeing the text of the poem now?
No.
No. Okay. Um, you're still. What are you seeing?
The urn.
Still seeing the urn? Okay. Um, how's that?
Yes.
Good.
Yes.
Okay. Good. So let me read this once, and then we'll play with it. Ode on a Grecian Urn. Thou still unravished bride of quietness, thou foster child of silence and slow time, sylvan historian who canst thus express a flowery tale more sweetly than our rhyme. What leaf-fringed legend haunts about thy shape of deities or mortals or of both, in Tempe or the dales of Arcady? What men or gods are these? What maidens loathe? What mad pursuit? What struggle to escape? What pipes and timbrels? What wild ecstasy? Heard melodies are sweet, but those unheard are sweeter. Therefore, ye soft pipes, play on, not to the sensual ear, but, more endeared, pipe to the spirit ditties of no tone. Fair youth, beneath the trees, thou canst not leave thy song, nor ever can those trees be bare. Bold lover, never, never canst thou kiss, though winning near the goal, yet do not grieve. She cannot fade, though thou hast not thy bliss. For ever wilt thou love, and she be fair. Ah, happy, happy boughs that cannot shed your leaves, nor ever bid the spring adieu. And happy melodist, unwearied, forever piping songs forever new. More happy love, more happy, happy love, forever warm and still to be enjoyed, forever panting and forever young, all breathing human passion far above that leaves a heart high sorrowful and cloyed, a burning forehead and a parching tongue. Who are these coming to the sacrifice? To what green altar, O mysterious priest, leadst thou that heifer lowing at the skies, and all her silken flanks with garlands dressed? What little town by river or seashore, or mountain built with peaceful citadel, is emptied of this folk this pious morn? And, little town, thy streets forevermore will silent be, and not a soul to tell why thou art desolate can e'er return. O Attic shape, fair attitude, with breed of marble men and maidens overwrought, with forest branches and the trodden weed, thou, silent form, dost tease us out of thought as doth eternity, cold pastoral. When old age shall this generation waste, thou shalt remain in midst of other woe than ours, a friend to man, to whom thou sayest, beauty is truth, truth beauty. That is all ye know on earth, and all ye need to know.
Ooh.
Yeah, yeah. That's some good stuff.
Mhm.
Everyone duly swooning. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, this is good stuff. First of all, before do you want to share any initial thoughts or impressions, or should we just start unpacking it from the top?
Share.
Yeah, what do you got to share? Any Anyone have some thoughts or questions before we start just going in line by line? Hi, Bob.
Quick one.
Yes.
So this is all inspired from his viewing of these urns and
Images.
and images. Yeah.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
How many different ones were there? Just
How many different ones? No idea. I have no idea.
okay.
Uh,
So it could have been like 300 or
No.
12.
no. Urns? No.
I don't
yeah.
know.
Yeah. Yeah. Probably. Yeah. Closer to 12 than 300. Yeah. Maybe dozens. Probably not hundreds. At the same time, maybe a better answer to your question was this all inspired by that. Something that as an artist, and I certainly experience this whenever, I'm on a writing project right now, that when you're on a project, you sooner or later you learn this as an art, if you continue to have some kind of career as an artist, which is once you get on a project, pay attention, because stuff starts coming to you from all sides. Some of it may be very unexpected, So I'm in the middle of writing a book right now, and so I'll, someone will tell me a joke, and I'll go, oh, wait a minute, there's something in that joke I can use, or I'll hear a commercial jingle, or I'll read that would be completely disconnected. My mind becomes kind of like a Velcro ball, and things start sticking to it, or the project becomes, maybe is a better way to say this, the project becomes the Velcro ball, and all this stuff starts sticking to it and feeds into it. So your initial topic, your Grecian urn, your idea of a Grecian urn might be the Velcro ball, but then, stuff can come in from all sides. And also, of course, ultimately the inspiration is human life, and to a certain degree, specifically his life. His career of writing this brilliant stuff was essentially 5 years. At this point, he'd already, I mentioned last time, 2 weeks ago, about, nursing these various family members through, starting with his mother when he was 14 years old, and his mother had remarried and abandoned her kids and came back, years later, dying of tuberculosis, which was called consumption in those days. In those days, 25% of all the deaths in London were due to consumption, tuberculosis. It was this huge plague. And imagine how traumatic that is. As a 14-year-old kid, he was the oldest child, so he was hopelessly trying to nurse his mother through this horrible disease. And then the same with one of his brothers. And then his other brother went off to America to get a fresh start and kept having to borrow money from Keats, which he didn't have. And turned out then that brother died of tuberculosis. And at a certain point, because Keats had medical training, and one day he coughs into a handkerchief and he sees a spot of blood, and he tells his friend that spot of blood that's my death warrant. He said, I know that color of blood. That means I've got tuberculosis. So he was very, very aware of mortality, right? And at the same time had this just exquisite sensitivity to beauty and love and poetry, and so all that is really, that's what this poem's about. And then the urn gives you an excuse. It gives you a pretext to write about all of that. Yeah. Okay, good. Okay, so let's go back into the poem. Okay, thou still unravished bride of quietness. Now, right there, there's a bunch going on. Um, Notice that the urn is conceived of as female. She's a bride. Okay. Why might that be? Any thoughts? Why does it make sense to to make the urn female rather than male?
The shape of the urn.
Yeah, the shape of the urn. She's curvy. She's got graceful curves, and she's concave, right? Um, so from there he takes that a step further, and she's not just a female. She's a bride. She's the bride of quietness. Now,
And virginal.
yes, unravished. So ravished means raped. Ravished also means carried away. And this is kind of might be kind of half a joke here, because of course all of these antiquities were ravished by Lord Elgin. If he hadn't gone and ravished them, Keats could not have gone to the British Museum and viewed all of these. So it's totally ravished, but it's still unravished. So in spite of having been carried away, in spite of having been ravished in one way, apparently in some deeper way, the urn is unravished, and I think that I think the main sense of this is yes, Jaffa. She's virginal. She's maintained her purity somehow over the centuries. So right away we've got a question: how? How is it that's happened? Also, there's another kind of ambiguity here in the syntax. Bride of quietness. That can mean either a bride who is quiet, a bride who has the quality of quietness, or that the groom is quietness. She is quietness's bride. So I'm not quite even sure how that plays out, but let's see. Thou foster child. Oh, wait a minute. One more. We could do an hour on the first line, of course. You may recall from last time, from 2 weeks ago, when we read Bright Star, right? Keats's last poem, the tragic sonnet to his unattainable lover, Fanny Braun, that this word still has about 4 or 5 different meanings, right? It means quiet, so that goes with that. It also means unmoving, which, yeah, okay, that applies. She just sits in one place. And as you'll see in a few moments, that becomes very important as we get to all this activity, all this movement that's going on in the pictures on her, but she herself is unmoving. She's the unmoving screen on which all the movement takes place. Starting to sound familiar? And still has what's for us now these days the kind of the basic meaning of it. Yet, nevertheless, in spite of everything that's happened over the ages, you're still unravished. You have yet maintained this purity. Thou foster child of silence and slow time.
Slow time.
Slow time. You hear how slow that is? You
Mm.
can't say that fast. This is how poetry works. It sounds like its meaning, but yeah, slow time. This is eras. This is you sit there face to face with these antiquities. I mean, I hope you've all had this experience of going to a museum and, you're looking at whatever, a Rembrandt, a Van Gogh, and you're going, wow, this space I'm in right here in front of this canvas where my head is. Van Gogh's head was in this space. Rembrandt's head was in this space, right? They're talking to me over these years through the medium of this thing. That's such an impossible miracle, right? Through that slow time. But also notice she's a foster child. Foster child of silence and of time. She's from somewhere else. You know, and again, this is also autobiographical, because remember that Keats was a foster child. You know, his father was thrown off the horse and died when Keats was 8, and then his mother died when he was 14, and you know, all the kids were, you know, he got this foster parent, this guardian, who insisted that he go to medical school, which he hated. So he knew something about being a foster child. So all this stuff that happens in time, the rise and fall of civilizations, the greatness of the Greek civilization, then it falls into ruin and all that. But somehow she's the foster child, the refugee, kind of, that has survived it, and survived it with some kind of purity intact. Sylvan historian. Sylvan, means of the woods, forest, right? Like that, like Sylvia. That was my grandmother's name. Sylvia means it's a beautiful name. Really means from the woods. So that would be a reference to all the the leaves and flowers and things that are part of its design. Sylvan and historian, because she can tell us the story of that culture and all those people and gods represented on the side of the urn. Sylvan historian, who canst thus express a flowery tale more sweetly than our rhyme. So you see this sort of lovely humility, or at least a poetic pose of humility, right? Saying, okay, I'm going to tell the story now, but you tell it better. You tell it better than I can do with all my, poetic skill. Sylvan historian, who canst thus express a flowery tale more sweetly than our rhyme. What leaf-fringed legend haunts about thy shape? And see, up to now he's been just kind of addressing her, and now, he's saying like, "Hey, you, Urn," and now, okay, he starts to ask her questions. Right? That's like, what are we looking at here? What is all this? What leaf-fringed legend haunts about thy shape, of deities or mortals or of both, in Tempe or the dales of Arcady? These, of course, are, locations, places in ancient Greece. What men or gods are these? What maidens loathe? Okay, and loathe here means reluctant. Right? What mad pursuit? What struggle to escape? Aha. So now we know. Remember, I mentioned we saw the naked figures there. I said, look at, these are going to be important. So this is a major theme on a lot of this stuff. Priapic young studs pursuing reluctant maidens. Now, of course, this is pre-Me Too movement by many centuries. Nowadays, it would not be considered a politically correct topic to paint on your urns of the happy pursuit of these aroused young beautiful men chasing after these reluctant beautiful young women. But if we look up until 15 minutes ago in human cultural history, that was what a whole lot of art, of all the arts, was about. So he's describing what he sees. What men or gods are these? What maidens loathe? What mad pursuit? What struggle to escape? What pipes and timbrels? Timbrel is a kind of tambourine instrument. So we've got musicians there as well. So we've got the men, we got the gods, we got the horny young studs chasing after the reluctant maidens, and we've got the soundtrack there. We've got the musicians playing the pipes and timbrels, providing the melody for all of this. So then he picks up on the idea of melody as he goes to the next stanza. Heard melodies are sweet, but those unheard are sweeter. Wow. Hello. Okay. That's quite a statement, isn't it?
Mhm.
Right? Here's a guy celebrating the art, celebrating art, music, all of this, and saying, okay, the stuff you can hear with your ear, and perhaps by implication, the stuff you can see with your eye, taste with your tongue, right? Heard melodies are sweet, but those unheard are sweeter. Therefore, ye soft pipes play on, not to the sensual ear, but more endeared pipe to the spirit, ditties of no tone. Right? So ditties is songs. Right? It's lovely that we have, and it's interesting because you'll often see Keats referred to as a very sensual poet. And he's, the way that he evokes the things of the senses is wonderful. It's rich, but he understands that that's not the ultimate good, the ultimate value, right? There's something sweeter than even the sweetest audible music, something sweeter than even the most delicious flavor. There's the transcendental music. There's the music, the unheard melodies, the ditties of no tone, which don't just address the senses, but address the spirit, right? The spirit, the beingness.
Mhm.
So now we're getting down to it. And again, we put this together with this whole sense of mortality, of impending physical death, which was haunting him in everything that he, through his whole life and everything that he wrote. Great. When you discover the sweetness of music, the sweetness of delicious food, the sweetness of physical romance, sex, that's great. But if you realize very sharply, as he did, that this stuff can be all taken away from you in a moment, then you may be more motivated to look deeper, to look to the spirit, to something that doesn't waste away. And as you'll see, that becomes more and more the theme of the poem as we go on. Fair youth, beneath the trees, thou canst not leave thy song, nor ever can those trees be bare. Right? This moment is like frozen for eternity on the urn. Bold lover, never, never canst thou kiss, though winning near the goal. Right? Bold lover, never, never canst thou kiss, though winning near the goal. So this is referring us back to the young hunks chasing after the maidens. So we can imagine, what's being described here is here's a young guy, just, she's like, just within arm's length, two more steps and I've got her. You'll never get her. That's frozen in time on the side of the urn. Right? The unattainable lover. Right? Now, again, in terms of Keats's biography, that sounds very familiar. This is him and Fanny Braun. But if it's, All of this stuff, we never want to reduce it to just biography, because then what does it have to do with us? That would be too limited. Just Dear Diary, who cares? It's if it doesn't attain a universality, then it's not great art. But this is universal, because we all have the things that we never quite got to. We all have the things that, gee, that night I almost this, or that goal, or that poem that I wanted to publish, or that whatever it is, that chance that I missed. But look what he says: bold lover, never canst thou kiss the winning near the goal. And I'm pretty sure this comma is in the wrong place. It doesn't make sense this way. This comma should be before the word yet. Bold lover, never canst thou kiss the winning near the goal, yet do not grieve. Aha. So for some reason, it's okay that you're always, just about to get the girl of your dreams, just about to get whatever, make the hole-in-one that you've been training all your life to, right, become that golfer, whatever it is, and then it's denied you forever. But it's okay, yet do not grieve. Why? She cannot fade, though thou hast not thy bliss. Forever wilt thou love, and she be fair. Aha. Interesting, right? There's a kind of immortality, right? She cannot fade. I mean, if whoever painted this stuff on the urn had human models, they're long since dead. They're long since faded. But they're immortalized. Their artistic self is immortalized. Their essence is immortalized through art. She cannot fade, though thou hast not thy bliss. Forever wilt thou love, and she be fair. Oh, happy, happy boughs that cannot shed your leaves, nor ever bid the spring adieu. So you see, now he's running with this theme. Everything on there is immortal. In real life, in nature, all the boughs have to shed their leaves sooner or later. But this is what art does. Art transmutes. Art transfigures. Art transfigures things. It raises them to an immortal level. It makes them godlike. And happy melodist, right, the musician, unwearied, forever piping songs forever new. Oh, interesting, yeah. You learn to play a song, you learn it, right, and then it's so exciting because it's new, and then after a while it's that same old song. But not in this realm, not in the realm of the urn. Right? So this brings us to another implication of this stuff, that not only is not only can these things attain immortality by being transfigured into art, but that keeps them ever fresh. Right? And then the rest of the stanza, you'll see, goes into that. More happy love, more happy, happy love. For my money, by the way, this is the worst line in the poem. This is not a line that Keats should have written. This is a line that Shelley should have written. Percy Bysshe Shelley writes whole poems like this. I can't read them. He's a little indulging here, but okay, we got the idea. Happy love, and by the way, happy had another meaning in those days. Now we use it to mean joyful, and it did mean that, but it also meant fortunate. Fortunate. Happy comes from the same root as the word happen. Right? What happens to you? Happily it did not rain. Right? Happily the sun shone today. That doesn't mean the sun was happy. It means fortunately the sun shone today. Right? So it's fortunate love as well as joyous love, forever warm and still to be enjoyed, forever panting and forever young, all breathing, but of course no one can do that. There ain't enough Viagra in the world to do that for anyone, to keep you forever panting, forever young. But with art, you can do it by going to a higher level, all breathing human passion far above, that leaves a heart high sorrowful and cloyed, a burning forehead and a parching tongue. Oh yeah, by the way, all these sensual enjoyments on the human level, whether it's sex or whether it's drinking, big night on the town. This is so great. I remember my mother describing the first time she had a drink that went to her head, and saying, "Wow, this is so great. Why doesn't everyone just do this all the time?" Right.
They do, some people.
Some people do. And how does it work out for them? Not so good. You might, right? Everything, right? What is the breathing human passion? By the way, Shakespeare has an entire sonnet about this. I think, look it up. I think it's sonnet 146. The expensive spirit in a waste of shame. That's the first line. That you can find it that way, because the sonnets don't have titles. They just have first lines. The expense of spirit in a waste of shame. That is an entire 14-line sonnet about postcoital depression. About how sex is so enticing when you're getting led into it, and then afterward it's just like you're being led into this paradise, and then afterward, right? Right? Cloyed. You know that word, cloying. You just, here's this, the most wonderful, sweet something. Let me have another one. You can't keep going. It just starts to cloy. Right? You wind up with a burning forehead and a parching tongue. With the stuff that goes directly to the senses, but with the stuff that goes to the spirit, rather than to the sensual ear, the sensual tongue, the sensual body, no problem. Next stanza. Now he's on to it's like he turns the urn, or he moves it to another side of it, and he sees some other pictures. Who are these coming to the sacrifice? To what green altar, O mysterious priest, leadst thou that heifer lowing at the skies? Lowing is like bellowing, mooing. So we're talking here about animal sacrifice. He's leading her to the altar for sacrifice, and all her silken flanks with garlands dressed. So this is the famous Keats, the very rich kind of the sensuality. It's not just a heifer. Her flanks are like silk. She's decorated with garlands. What little town by river or seashore or mountain built with peaceful citadel is emptied of this folk this pious morn? So apparently all the people, we see the whole city. We see the little town by the river, or by some kind of body of water that he can't identify. I don't know if they've all abandoned the town to follow the priest for the sacrifice. Maybe that's what's going on. And little town, thy streets forevermore will silent be, and not a soul to tell why thou art desolate can ever return. So maybe that's the point there. Not even that, okay, we see everyone's going to the sacrifice, but we'll never know. Okay, great. It's a mystery down through the ages. It's an empty town for some reason. Oh, Attic shape. Attic here with a capital A means Greek. Fair attitude with breed of marble men and maidens overwrought. I think there's probably a couple of shades of meaning here on this word overwrought. To wrought means made, like wrought iron. Iron's been shaped into certain ways. So these wrought painted images have been wrought on the side of the they've been wrought all over the urn, but overwrought, right? It's like spilling over. It's like almost too much. It's like a cornucopia. It's just the fullness of life, and 1 minute you're about to capture the maiden of your desire, and the next minute you're leading a heifer to the sacrifice, or you're the heifer being led to the sacrifice, and there's pipes playing and timbrels being banged, and there's forest branches and the trodden weed. Thou silent form dost tease us out of thought as doth eternity. Right? You tease us out of thought. Right? Tease in the sense of draw, like tease it out. You pull us out of our thoughts. Okay? Well, that sounds like what happens in meditation. Right? So it's not just sitting there looking at the urn and thinking, having all these thoughts. It's leading us to something deeper that's beyond thought. You just tease us out of thought as doth eternity. So to contemplate you is to have a chance to contemplate not just time, not just the passage of time. You are not the child of time. You are, as we saw at the beginning, the foster child of time. You're something that has survived in spite of time. You are an embodiment of eternity. Cold, pastoral, right? And pastoral, again, goes with that, all those words, leafy and sylvan, right? It's this big scene of great life, all this forest and flowers and animals and people and gods, but it is cold, right? It goes with the virginal, the unravished, the still, after all these centuries, still unravished bride, the coldness, the virgin. That's how we do it. We're preserved in marble. When old age shall this generation waste, and waste means to kill, thou shalt remain. Have you ever had that thought when you're in the museum looking at, the Rembrandt or the Van Gogh? Oh, generations of people before me have seen this. They're dead now. I'm seeing it now. After I'm gone, other people are going to have their head in this space where Van Gogh's head was and now my head was, and people that don't even exist yet, their heads will be there contemplating this. That's pretty amazing. When old age shall this generation waste, thou shalt remain in midst of other woe than ours. Right? The people in those future generations are going to have different problems from ours. Whole different kind of life, different things we can't even imagine. A friend to man, right? Just as you have lifted me above the woes of my time and my individual life, you've lifted me into this contemplation of eternity, into this transcendent realm above the senses, above the passage of time. You'll be around going down through the generations to do this for others. Thou shalt remain in midst of other woe than ours, a friend to man, to whom thou sayest. And then the concluding couplet, the most controversial part of the poem. People have been arguing about this ever since he wrote this. So finally, up to now, it's been the poet speaking to the urn, and now finally the urn speaks back. This is what the urn tells us. What do you tell us, urn? Beauty is truth, truth, beauty. That is all ye know on earth, and all ye need to know. Beauty is truth, truth, beauty. Now, a whole lot of people look at that and they go, oh, Keats, another one of these silly romantic poets. That's a lovely idea. But, the truth is terrible things happen in life. Truth is war is the truth, disease is the truth, injustice is the truth. How can you tell me that's all beautiful? How can you tell me beauty is truth? Truth is beauty. Okay? And if we're only looking on the surface, it doesn't make sense. Just as if we're only talking about, in terms of the people living on the surface of the urn, right? They have their ups and downs. Oh, I think I'm going to catch my maiden now. Oh, damn, now I'm not catching her, right? When you're on the urn, when you are, to return to a metaphor we use a lot around here, when you're in the movie, from the point of view of the characters in the movie, some great, beautiful stuff is happening. Some very horrible, unbeautiful stuff is happening. But for those of us who are back here in the audience watching the movie, or like Keats back here on this higher level, looking at the movie, the urn, the figures on the urn, it's all beautiful. It's a part of a bigger truth. We would not say, the Hamlet's a pretty good play, but it's really messed. What's wrong with Shakespeare? Why he wound up with Hamlet dying at the end? Hamlet's such a lovely, funny, endearing person. He should live to become the Prince of Denmark. Man, Shakespeare blew it. No, we don't say that. It's part of the beauty. It's a necessary part of the beauty that Hamlet dies. Right? It's the bigger truth. It's when when you're in the middle of it, it doesn't look that way. And we can imagine that just as we look at the movie, we look down at the people at the the Grecian on the surface of the urn, someone from a higher level than ours, someone some from let's say a God's eye view, which as we become more awakened, we start more and more seeing things from that transcendent point of view, which is, off of the surface, above the surface, all of this. We more and more, we're in this paradoxical situation. We have a body, we have a personality, we have relationships, we have, we're still participating in the movie, but more and more we're watching it. We're up here. We're seeing the whole urn and seeing that there's a beauty to the thing that we can't explain to other people. But there's a perfection to all the imperfection. There's a beauty to all the ugliness. There's the Zen story that is one of my favorites, of the monk who goes to the Roshi, the master, and says, Master, what is the Buddha? Meaning, what is enlightenment? What is truth? This is really what Buddha means. It doesn't mean a person. Truth. It's what is highest truth, awakened truth. What is the Buddha? And the master replies, the Buddha is a pile of cow shit in the middle of the road. Right? I mean, if you say, oh, the Buddha is the beautiful rainbow, well, sure, but that's too easy. But if you can see that the Buddha, the ultimate perfectness of life, the ultimate truth, the ultimate beauty, is the pile of cow shit is that also, then if you can see it there, you'll see it everywhere. So, is this working for you? Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. Isn't it nice that things like this exist in our world? Right? I mean, that's what Keats was saying. Keats had that urn forever, which actually never existed, except in his imagination. But now it exists for us. And the poem exists for us. The poem exists, more or less forever. People, when we're dead, will be reading this poem, having this conversation, some version of this conversation. Some bigger sangha beyond space and time that You know, there are brothers and sisters in that song. Go, hi guys, wherever you are. The Jetsons, future poets of America. Any other thoughts? Anything about this one tonight? Yeah, it's
Love
pretty
you
great.
to read it.
Yes.
Read it. Love you to read it again. We have time?
Yeah, we're over time, but
Oh.
let me. Okay, I'll do it. You know, if y'all got to go. But otherwise, I'm going to read it through one more time because it's a request from my dear sister Judy, and I can't say no to her.
Yeah, you can.
No, I can't. Okay. So yeah, but you're right, absolutely. You know, we unpack all the pieces, and then it's always good to put them back together again and see how much richer the experience is. Thou still unravished bride of quietness, thou foster child of silence and slow time, sylvan historian who canst thus express a flowery tale more sweetly than our rhyme. What leaf-fringed legend haunts about thy shape of deities or mortals, or of both, in Tempe or the dales of Arcady? What men or gods are these? What maidens loathe? What mad pursuit? What struggle to escape? What pipes and timbrels? What wild ecstasy? Heard melodies are sweet, but those unheard are sweeter. Therefore, ye soft pipes, play on, not to the sensual ear, but more endeared, pipe to the spirit, ditties of no tone. Fair youth, beneath the trees, thou canst not leave thy song, nor ever can those trees be bare. Bold lover, never, never canst thou kiss, though winning near the goal. Yet do not grieve, she cannot fade, though thou hast not thy bliss. Forever wilt thou love, and she be fair. Ah, happy, happy boughs that cannot shed your leaves, nor ever bid the spring adieu, and happy melodist, unwearied, forever piping songs forever new. More happy love, more happy, happy love, forever warm and still to be enjoyed, forever panting and forever young, all breathing human passion far above, that leaves a heart high sorrowful and cloyed, a burning forehead and a parching tongue. Who are these coming to the sacrifice? To what green altar, O mysterious priest, leadst thou that heifer lowing at the skies, and all her silken flanks with garlands dressed? What little town by river or seashore or mountain built with peaceful citadel is emptied of this folk this pious morn? And little town, thy streets forevermore will silent be, and not a soul to tell why thou art desolate can e'er return. O Attic shape, fair attitude, with breed of marble men and maidens overwrought, with forest branches and the trodden weed, thou, silent form, dost tease us out of thought as doth eternity. Cold pastoral, when old age shall this generation waste, thou shalt remain, in midst of other woe than ours, a friend to man, to whom thou sayest, beauty is truth, truth, beauty. That is all ye know on earth, and all ye need to know. Okay?
Nice.
Okay?
Nice. Mhm.
As we say in Tibet, imaho. Right?
It was worth listening to the totality. It was
Yeah.
really worth it. Thank you, sister.
Yes. Thank you, Judy. Yeah, we should always do that.
Different
Yeah.
flow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, the stuff's not written to be taken apart. It's written to be experienced as a whole, but we have to
Know what it
we have
says.
to take it apart so that we can fully appreciate the wholeness, which is the sum and more than the sum of all the parts. Right? So, yeah,
Thank you.
you bet. Thank you. Yeah, good. So next week we'll do something else. I don't know yet what, but if you have any suggestions or requests, drop me an email, okay? Good. So, yes, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Have fun.
Bye.
Enjoy being.